All right, everyone, let's begin. And if I lose signal for any reason, or if anybody can't hear me, feel free to do a request to speak, and we'll know based on that. And I'm sure several will send me some DMs as well. We know that today Princess is literally killing it with a multiplicity of meetings and actually speaking engagement as well. And so we definitely support her and appreciate all the DMs of support that she's receiving, and literally from a capital acquisition perspective, we're in such a great place. I know that she will provide some specifics on that, so everybody knows exactly where we're at from her perspective. This is a Fiscus Friday that I think individuals will not want to miss. This is the result of an entire week. Really, it's the culmination of so much of what we've done, and I think that the solution and what has been crafted is truly amazing. I'm reminded of a quote which I've always liked, which is, and we may have mentioned this before, but that a river cuts through rock not because of its power, but its persistence. And I think that persistence is something that we have no shortage of. So let's get through with several of the updates, and then we will get into what I would consider the big announcement. Somebody last night asked if it was a big Fiscus Friday, a medium, or small, and I was saying medium with a chance of big. And it's definitely turned into big. So excited for everyone here and for us to be able to talk about it. And where we're headed. And so before we do that, let's get with Doni for some procedural thoughts and admin thoughts based on what he has been doing and working on.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate that. I don't know if the community knows what I've been doing the last 6 or 7 days, but what I've been doing is unwinding the launch. And everything that has to do with that. I put my spreadsheet skills to work and started going through every swap and sale that we had through the launch to identify any bad actors that and also to categorize thoroughly what the different scenarios were. I do want to send an appreciation to LinkPoint. They had provided a report of their findings, and it was a decent starting point to which to expand from. So what I did was I looked through every swap and every sale that happened during those fateful hours, and made basically 8 categories. And these categories all have different actionable items to them. Obviously, the chief one was to identify any blacklisted wallets that with the obvious intention of basically selling and taking advantage of the exploit. that was the P-Fist to Fist swap. So went through these in depth. The initial designation came up with 14 wallets, but through my deep dive, I eliminated some of those because the malicious intent wasn't readily evident, even if there was a multi-swap and sale. If there were sales that were not that did not exceed the original PFISC, then I excluded those from the blacklist, and then also added a few wallets that had curious transactions with obvious blacklisted wallets. So we intend to basically keep that list. And obviously anyone on a blacklist can amnesty is still available. the 14 that were suggested by LinkPoint did exclude those who had already taken advantage of the amnesty, and I reduced that number to 9. So obviously these wallets can also be taken off the blacklist due to amnesty, and we've identified the loss amount, the USDC loss amount that would if that was returned, we would take those wallets off the blacklist. So we came up with a framework on different scenarios that happen. People that swapped, but did multiple times, but didn't sell. There was multiple swaps, and there were some sales. But if the sales weren't above the threshold, above what normally could be sold in a valid swap, then I didn't add those to the blacklist. I think I was probably a little more liberal than maybe we initially said we were going to be. But I think trying to determine what someone's intent is very difficult on the blockchain. So, but we came up with a list. We did our analysis, and to the members that are known, there were some certainly that we know about, and there's certainly some that wallets that have not been involved in Fiscus that we can see either through the whitelist, through the LBP, or through NFTs. So to the extent that we have the information on the username, we'll reach out to them and give them their options. I would assume that we would close the amnesty at some point, but as of now, I don't have a date for that. So that's kind of where we're at. We're still going through the sales summary. I have identified every sale that we've done through the swaps, but I haven't identified any nefarious goings on with just the sales that didn't have swaps involved, people coming in and buying. When we eventually consider what we're going to do for relaunch, some of these categories, for example, if there was a swap and a partial sale, then obviously we'll have to reduce what we airdrop of the new token to that person. So those calculations will be done. I'm certainly working on those, but that's kind of where we're at. So last few days have certainly been busy with that. I do want to give a special shout out to DeFi Slug because his data was pretty key in taking the next step from what we received from LinkPoint and identifying some of the issues. So certainly a shout out to DeFi Slug. So, but that's what we were working on, and we still have some loose ends to tie up. But I'm happy to say that it was not as bad as I thought. I mean, certainly there were a few bad actors that took advantage of the exploit, but all in all, I mean, it certainly renewed my faith in the community. It's certainly the ones who've come forward to say mea culpa and have reimbursed the loss amounts. In fact, we've had over close to 400,000 USDC returned to us because of that. So certainly that's very encouraging, and you guys know my stance on the community. I've always been impressed and amazed by the majority of the people that have genuine care for not only this protocol, but also for us trying to carry forward despite the obstacle. So certainly thank you for all that. You guys should be proud of yourself. So but that's where we're at on that. That's really all I have as far as that goes. I'll continue to work on this and reach out to members as we need to. But that's kind of where we're at on analyzing the launch. So That's really all I have, Phil. Back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Donnie. And thank you as well. And those that have been assisting Donnie as well with the task this week. Thank you for that. For some operational updates, let's hear from Clarissa, who's here with us, and let's see what's going on in the world of operations.
Thank you, Phil. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you all for having me here. I'm going to update you on a couple of things that we've been focusing on operationally. The first, there's really been three main focus areas. And they're all really in support of this laser focus on capital acquisition, and anything that we can do to help sort of support that piece. The first is really educational materials for investors. So sort of putting together bite-sized, digestible sort of pieces, diagrams, that can help with the presentations to investors, help to explain our model, and what will happen with their investments, how they get their returns, that kind of thing. So I've been working with Princess, Phil, and a few others in the community to put some of the things together. In terms of a timeline for delivery, we were originally looking at something early next week, but that may be pushed out to sort of incorporate some of the bigness from Phil that's coming down the pike. So I will have to revise the timeline, and next Friday I'll have an update with a more accurate timeline for the delivery of those materials. The second is really pipeline management. So really making sure that we are building out our systems to capture some of the capital acquisition opportunities that are coming forward, and that we're making sure that nothing's sort of slipping through the cracks in terms of the opportunities for capital acquisition. And then the last piece is really Finicity deployment. So I know it was mentioned to the community that Finicity is our off-chain oracle for asset verification. And so there's been an effort to make sure that that system is being deployed. So there's a couple pieces that go into that. One of them, since Finicity is aggregating, sensitive financial information, there's a piece that requires verification of security of the environment and the encryption standards of the environment where the data will be stored. So that piece is done. The second piece is really to build out the user interface and the reporting system for Finicity for that data. So Finicity provides the API endpoints, and then it's really up to the users to build out the reporting structure for that data. So that's being worked on now. And we're in talks to try to figure out, what that's going to look like, how that's going to look when we share with the community, how much should be shared since it is financial information. So that piece is being worked out, but that is something that we're looking at on the operations side, just to sort of tie into when these capital assets come forward. We do want a way for us to verify those assets, and then also sort of make sure the community understands, what's there and how much is there. So those are the three pieces, and I'm available. My DMs are open if people have questions about that. That's all I have. Back to you, Phil.
Thank you so much, Clarissa, and wonderful update, and appreciate your expertise and everything that you're doing with there. And so that's it. That's all we have, right? No, not even close. Wouldn't that be terrible if we just ended that way? No. This week has been a flurry of activity, mainly again in the capital acquisition space. There was a group that approached, and I am happy to say that we have reached a more than agreeable deal, and that the details are going to get hammered out over the weekend, but we're going to talk about a lot of it right now and right here. this is, and it's funny because we highlighted, I think 2 weeks ago, the evolution of Fiscus. It comes to a point, and I think that this highlights the strength of the community. It comes to a point where those in the community, have a choice, right? They have that choice to be all in on Fiscus, or maybe just a spectator, waiting, right, while we hammer away, and that's fine too. But there comes a point, it seems like, with I'm reminded of immolating monks, right, and the gravitas that has, and that's something that Princess and I were actually talking about earlier in the week, and that it comes to a point where the ships are burned on the beach, and it's only forward, right? There's no there's no shrinking back, there's no timidity, as the Bible would say. It's pushing forward, right? And so in doing that, there's this gravity, or really this magnetism, I think, that draws those that see it, and that's what's happened. We this deal that's been made, and we call it a privatizing of Fiscus, but it's more than that. It's for a purpose, right? So what's the goal, right? Let's go back a little bit. So the goal has always been, right, the off-chain element is the biggest part of Fiscus. If we're on chain and we're like some of the other projects, and we're just saying, okay, we're here. We don't really have too much utility that's in the real world. Everyone's here because of the off-chain, right? Let's be real and frank with each other. We're here. That's what makes us different. And so again, that original plan was to bootstrap, launch, in order to demonstrate that, right? And even though we've had these hurdles, even though we've had these disruptions, there still has been this buzz, and this buzz has been big enough and loud enough that all of you are here, and all of those that are now paying attention and coming to the table are also here because of that. And so from that perspective, it is definitely a success. So this privatizing is allowing us a reset to kind of refine the community, focus on our relationships, focus on governance with a smaller committed group that really is for Fiscus, right? That sees where we're headed and wants to be part of that. We'll go through several cycles, so multiple funding cycles. That way, whenever we go public, if you will, right, we're doing so from a position. I don't know if you lost me there for a second. Hopefully not too long. So that when we do come out and go public, we're doing so from a position of strength, right? We're not doing so from a defensive position. We're not doing so just to shake the haters off, right? We're doing so because this is the vision and this is the plan. And so because of that, we're happy to announce the following details as part of this. So the larger details, and let's focus on that on-chain element first. Happy to announce, and really kind of honored to announce after working with him this week, that Crypto Sanity Mag is fully coming on board. He's leading the development of another protocol. His relationships are outstanding when it comes from the devs on all these other protocols, and his knowledge base I've been impressed all week, and more than impressed. There's a synergy there that I really feel like from a high level that we're going to be able to do some amazing things. And so because of that, let's talk about the on-chain element. There is going to be some changes, some refinement, moving away from an own model and towards something that actually works better. And that is the goal of making an improvement. Fiscus will be an improvement on the Terra Luna ecosystem, so that we have RAC as our stablecoin, and Fisc is what everybody would know now in that as Luna, right? Now, additionally, because we talk about from a community perspective, we know that for some, their purposes for getting in was very short term. And so because of that, happy to announce refunds, right? The R word. Refunds coming in for that at that NFT level, the LBP, refunds at $6 a token. Whitelisters, refunds of at least 6, as well as an equalizing of tokens to account for their purchase price. Rebases, still apart, still here. If whatever tokens that someone has that have not been refunded, they're going to be rolled over. There will be a vesting period there. NFTs still in the ecosystem, and thrilled for that. There's a lot of other details that we'll make available. There's several that we still need to hammer out as part of this deal, this kind of mega deal. There's actually capital from an inflow perspective. Won't talk about the final number on that. We're still in negotiations there. But I definitely think it's safe to say a replacement of what was there that we unfortunately had lost, because of the hiccups that we had. There is a sense and a feeling that we will be blue chip. I mean, we're talking about a transition, and the excitement has me, honestly, where I'm kind of stammering a little bit, because I think at times, everyone views, let's say Fiscus as that opportunity to participate in something that will be large, right? We know there's been these hurdles, but at the same time, so many here in the community are here because what it will be. You know what it has the power to do. You've heard from project people. You've heard from Princess. You know the funders, right? I mean, think about all the elements that you know. And this gets me excited, as you would be excited about all of that. This gets me excited because from a position and an adjustment or a pivot, really utilizing the rack token in that kind of Terra Luna dynamic is going to be incredible. It already is. This is the reason why Princess isn't even able to speak here right now, is from the dealing with all of these groups, dealing with all of these capital acquisition groups that see the power of it, right? Those that know the size and scale of Terra Luna, take that, but then remember that we have a much, much better cash flowing revenue source than their, payment processing. And so again, very excited by that. We'll hammer out the rest of the details. We'll announce that. Still provide the accounting review. That's not dead. But for those individuals where it's felt like it's been too long, you don't want to wait anymore. Listen, we say thank you for waiting as long as you have. Take advantage of the refunds, and we'll see you when we see you, with appreciation and with gladness when you return. We'll start that process even today. We'll start the process with what I kind of refer to as a pre-refund form, so that individuals, members of the community, will be able to fill out, pertinent information, so that we can have that and be able to verify that, so that we know and we can kind of gauge from a total token perspective where we're going to be. There'll be 150, 200 questions at least, and bring all those. Honestly, bring all those. Feel free to DM me. My DMs are caught up as of right now, so feel free to DM me for specific thoughts and questions. I usually respond pretty quickly. depending on what they are. Definitely, I would say no more than a day or two, even when there's a lot. And just know that as we continue, sorry, I may have lost signal there. So feel free to DM me, and know that as we continue to go about this process, that we'll put everything out there and everyone will know. They'll know the thoughts. But this gets us to a position of strength, and really acceleration. So we're thrilled to make those announcements. And again, from a organizational kind of chart and structure, that will come out as part of this as well. There's some other individuals, such as some of these capital providers, if you will, that will also be on the organizational chart, and obviously they have a place there, right? They're coming in a large way to support Fiscus, and so we definitely want to make sure that they have all the strength and protection and clarity that they need. So we're thrilled for this. I really don't know how else to phrase it. It accomplishes everything that we are trying to do and so much more. And so with that, let's get into, if there is some of the outstanding AMA questions, any of those that are, let's say, have now been somewhat adjusted or changed by the announcements. We won't necessarily touch on those. But any of the other ones here, as I'm kind of scanning through, we'll definitely highlight those. And I know there's been interest, of course, in the private route, as we've been talking about that this week. And let's start with this question. It was Triple D about how would anyone who holds FISC, make money if it's private. We're talking about through 2-3 cycles of the funding process. Now, during that time, there's revenue generated, right? Remember that. And so once we hammer out the details, we'll see how and where that revenue would go. The core element, again, is in making sure that when we launch, we're launching from a position of severe strength. But it's never lost on anyone the holding time and holding costs and ROIs that you could get elsewhere. And so just know that that's always on my mind. I'm always a proponent of that. Princess is a proponent of that. Sanity is a proponent of that. So please know that. Let me see here. Let me go through a couple of these questions. Wallets of the blacklisted by the amnesty. I think that's something that, and again, we'll specifically. I think we'll let that be a donor decision. But there definitely, we want to make sure because the NFTs, we want to make sure that everyone's protected, as we also see the NFT market kind of heating back up as far as the secondary market. We know that we want to make sure that individuals aren't, let's say, transacting with blacklisted wallets. And this is another element, and I think this is huge, and this is again a benefit for everyone that has been here from the beginning. When we talk about the refunds and that $6 price point, which is a 20% increase from the $5 price point for the NFT level, you still have your NFTs, right? Still have those. That is a totally separate standpoint. Question here from Shoot. Will people who keep PFIS have a route to stay in whatever's coming in the future? Or is it sell it, refund, and start fresh later? You're still here. Yeah, you're still here. Rebases still here. Will be vested, and will be vested favorably. The obviously from a tokenomics standpoint, third party burn, the treasury ROI. Now imagine those elements and added with Terra Luna and that an improvement on the Terra Luna ecosystem. Very exciting. Another question there. So what NFT benefits will disappear through this deal, e.g. voting for the projects, and what will stay? we're going to hammer out over the weekend. I'm a proponent of all or most staying as is. One, because I feel like it is a great model for governance and kind of project participation, and long term, the purpose of those NFTs, I don't know if this has ever been, even expressed in this way, but long term, an NFT holder that has gone through, let's think years in the future, an NFT holder has gone through votes. What does that mean if they've gone through these votes? That means they've looked at projects. That means you know what you're looking for. You know what makes a good project, because after several years, you see the performance of projects, right? You're in a specific area in the world, and you've benefited from being involved in Fiscus. You've benefited from rewards, right? Perhaps you're in a different situation from a personal perspective, from a personal finance perspective. Perhaps you have more time, all right? I know a lot of you golf, but even outside of the golf, let's say that you're in a position where personally you're making investments into your area, right? Whether it's in real estate, whether it's in business, whatever it is, where are you going to go to finance those things, right? Fiscus. On top of that, you're connecting with project developers in your area. Where are they going to go to finance their project? Right back here. And so the long-term view of those NFTs and their viability is really from an activity perspective, from a community engagement perspective, right? And so we're very excited to have those as part of the ecosystem. Another question here, and I appreciate you guys having these in here. Feel free to put these in here, and we'll flow through these right now, according to the best of what's been agreed thus far. If it's an element that hasn't been, then I'll say that, and we'll put a pin in that, and we'll come back and answer it when it's done. Next question here. Well, still in that there by Rosie B. Idea of timelines. Very quick. The benefit of the streamlined approach and the use of RAC and Fisc has gone over so well from a capital acquisition perspective, right? And remember, that's what funds projects quickly is the capital acquisition perspective. If it was just the minting of a token, would we get there? Of course. Would it take a little bit more time? Yes. However, even in this adjusted model, it's a lot faster. And that's something that, again, is to the benefit of crypto sanity. That's some tremendous IP that has been brought to the table. But even outside of that, capital acquisition, I mean, from a capital asset provider perspective, right? That's kind of a mouthful. They're coming to the table. There's already, we already talked about earlier in the week, maybe 2 days ago, 5 million in assets, waiting on the loan quote on that to be able to monetize that real estate. Expecting that loan quote by end of day today. That's something that once we get terms, we'll share that with the community. There's a lot of other things. And just so everybody knows, let me say this out front right now. There is inside of that, we want to be able to get Twist started. That's important. When I met Twist Access, there was instant connection that this is a product that needs to be out on the market. I know that so many here have been able to receive samples, and for those that are asking for samples and maybe some more samples, listen, Twist is one of us. Buy the product, right? Let's not be that cheap. Buy the product. It's great. For those that haven't yet, this is me as an endorsement saying go for it. You will not be disappointed. So again, from a funding perspective, we want to make sure that we do everything we can to be able to get Twist started. From the next question there, will the refund count for rebased tokens? So yeah, so if you get refunded, let's say you have, 1,000 tokens. and you receive a refund on 500 of those tokens at the $6 price point. There's no rebases that you then have with that. Those rebases are gone. Now on that other 500, the rebases you would have there, they would continue on, and you would receive. Those are going to be vested, right? And they'll be vested fairly. That's something that will work out this weekend as well. Crypto Nash. If we want to stay invested long term and this goes private, is to just keep holding our PFIS? Yes, that's it. You're just going to hold. There's nothing if you want to if you want to stay. There's not a lot that you'll have to do from this standpoint other than continual community engagement, participating in existing and new committees. There's a slew from an educational perspective, and Clarissa touched on this. There's the education elements that are for the capital providers and asset providers, but then also there's additional education that's already been created for the community, so that you can increase in from a knowledge perspective and be able to not only adequately explain all of the elements of Fiscus, but really jump into the weeds. And there's been times, and I'm humbled by the fact that this concept and the elements that have been existing that we've put together in this way, I'm humbled by the fact when I get DMs and they're novels, right? And individuals are talking about, okay, so if this is this, and then we go here, and then this does this, does that mean this? Love that, because again, that shows that you're thinking about it and you're understanding it and you're wielding it, right? There's a big difference between carrying a sword and wielding a sword. And so again, from a community perspective, that's what we're looking for, are those that want to wield that sword, right? Next question here. How long on average cycles to complete? Right now, they've originally always been around 30 days. We talked about the goal of getting it down to 15 to 23 days. I am happy to say that it is shorter than 30 now. It's in really that 23 to 29 right now. We'll continue to hammer on that, and after really completing that kind of first major cycle, it will help in shortening the cycles continually. So let me say that. TK Hill, if a large capital commitment, 50M, were to be established, would this still be a route you would want to pursue? Absolutely. I think the best aspect from a capital perspective is that we are built now to accept it all. That's where we're at. From a project perspective, that spigot will be turned back on here in the next, I would say after the weekend, Monday, Tuesday, around there, that the project spigot will be turned back on. I have one group that has 25 projects that are we haven't gone through those even yet, but they have 25 projects. It's a viable source. I know we have projects coming out of 4 or 5 investment banks that are projects that they've had sitting for a while that they haven't been able to fund because they qualify as maybe too high risk for them. We're talking about mining. We're talking about renewable energy with a 3.5 year build out. Some things that they just don't want to get into, but they're perfect for our model. So we'll turn that back on, and everyone will see that we'll scale up easily. I would say three. I wouldn't quite say 4 times where we're at now, but we'll definitely be at 3 times what we are now as far as project size. And everyone knows what that means and what the end benefits that come from that. And so we'll have a lot of projects there in queue. As of right now, we are as of right now over 50 projects right now. That is something that I can say with absolute certainty, and that's exciting. We have a lot of updating that will continually be done from a website perspective, and that Google Drive. There's been work on the work has been on capital acquisition, and so some of those other elements that may be visibility, that may be further down the line, those have been non-prioritized, right? And so we'll get back to those. None of those have been forgotten. So thank you, everyone, for your patience in those elements. When we get to lots of questions here, thank you guys for these questions. Refund all or nothing? It's partial. Yeah, definitely partial. That's fair. We understand that some want to just take some capital off the table because of the time and what's happened. We apologize for the time that it's taken. Let hear that from me. And at the same time, we value you. We value the patience that you've had. We value the patience that your capital has had. Another question there. This is from Craig. Literally everything Fiscus sold NFTs whitelisted was just now with privatizing. How do these people contemplating to stay in Fiscus be assured they won't have NFT revenues and other details change on them down the road in a negative way? Phenomenal question. And also, I always appreciate your questions, Craig, because one, they're to the point, they're professional, they're not disrespectful, at least not the majority. They're spot on. What's there is, by you asking and raising this question, it heightens it in the community, right? This is the purpose of a DAO. And so this is why these type questions are important. So that from a negotiation perspective, I know and we know what's important to the community, right? Now, it's easy for me to think in terms of a whitelister, right? Of an NFT holder, of an LBP participant, of the new participants. But thank you for this. So from my perspective, it's more, not less. It's the increase and not a decrease. And so again, knowing that we have more projects in the pipeline, knowing that you guys don't even know about those projects yet, right? Knowing that from a project perspective, where we're headed, and then from a capital perspective, where we have this kind of giant rocket booster, if you will, we'll be adding, and then from the on-chain perspective, the growth of capital there because of what we're talking about. And again, just to highlight that for a moment, we are talking about UST on Anchor at 19.45 compared to RAC at 40, right? We're talking about comparisons as that, with already having that pathway for these capital providers to go straight through that pathway. And so again, when we look at it at a TVL perspective, we are in a phenomenal position to dominate in these areas. And these are areas that we didn't really see as our arena in a way. And so again, saying that to say, I will do my best in negotiations to keep it exactly the same, or if there's room for a potential increase or even a fifth category of rewards, I'll push for that. That's all I can say as we lead into it. So what's going to happen with the FIST that was purchased during the launch? That goes back to what Donnie was talked about. The cleanest, safest, most efficient way is a refund. It's a refund on those. From a capital perspective, we're not talking about a lot, given that, we're only open for a few moments. And so the refund's the cleanest there, and it's the fairest. Next question. Lose my place. You guys are putting some great questions in here. How do we submit a project for council review approval? There is a channel there. Feel free to DM any of the admins, or actually FISC experts or FISC support. There is a direct submission link, and you guys could also DM and I hope this is okay. I'm just going to say it, but you could DM Clarissa on that as well. And there's a direct pathway from a project submission standpoint. Everything that you need for to submit for intake is all there. And it's kind of your I wouldn't even say standard project finance, because there's elements there that are just way of brilliance, when it comes to the elements required and really kind of getting to the core of a project very quickly, getting to the core of principles very quickly. Because we're long term. Let's zoom out for a quick second, and I say long term as in the end of these 3 cycles, ideally. But definitely we'll hammer away on it as much as we can. But long term, the goal that Princess and I have definitely talked about from a project finance perspective is to be able to have a project that is submitted, that is reviewed, that the due diligence is done, whether it's through Kroll, whether it's through kind of proprietary due diligence and review, and A to Z inside of a week. The advantage that gives us is, beyond words. It's really beyond words. It has never been done in project finance. That level of speed. And again, we won't do that in a sense where there's any risk that we take. Remember, that's always the balancing is risk mitigation, right? It's not pedal to the metal and let the risk go out the window. It's always from that risk mitigation perspective. Next question there. When Fiscus goes private, do all team members stay on the team? Not sure if I missed the ETA for accounts to be released to clear up some of the rumors. Yes, great on both of those points. So let's take the first one. Do all team members stay on the team? There is a role in Fiscus for everyone, I think, is the short answer for that. I have always said, and this was the intent in that evolution of Fiscus, which obviously we rolled back, that I don't want to be a deficit to where we're headed and what we're doing. And so whatever has to be put in place for that, from my perspective, will be done. That will definitely be done as we've readied the ship, right? At that point, when we're there, I am more than happy to step aside. When we and again step aside from the element of we're flowing now. There's a limit. You guys know my skill set. There's a limit on that. I think the greatest analogy there is a relay, right? It's a relay race, and that's what we have here in Fiscus. This is something that has been built for generations, right? I'm not going to be here 30 years from now, 40 years from now, right? Some of you guys won't necessarily be here 30 and 40 years from now. And so we want to make sure that we have a sustainable model from a team perspective for consistent and constant transitions, where the community is having a voice in that governance, having a voice in where we're headed from a team perspective. And so we're thrilled for that. So after the weekend, let us get through all the rest of those details so everybody knows. Second part of that question, ETA on accounts. I don't have the ETA. I know that they're close. There's definitely been a lot of rumors about funds used for random things. I think the biggest thing everyone needs to know, we exist off-chain and on-chain. We have OTC providers. We have groups that are vendors that, we may pay in crypto, and they're providing the service that's off-chain. Not only just legal and consulting and accounting. At the beginning, there was even more of those. Outside marketing. All of these elements, some use more than others. So the accounting review absolutely will clear all that up so everybody knows, and those rumors can be dismayed. But again, anyone that feels that from a fiscal perspective, they don't like it, it's not enough for them, we just say, no, we have no ill will. Feel free to take advantage of the refund if time has been too long, and come back when you're ready. more than happy, and we'll welcome you. Next question there. What about people who are getting refunds and have sold NFTs? Again, that NFT element is separate. What's done with NFTs is a separate element. And so again, we want to make sure that there's that divergence there. And after, again, further negotiations over the weekend, we'll have more details on that. Okay, what about OG Bounty? Who wants? I think that might be again answered in that refund. If there's more on that, Bruno, feel free to clarify on that. Refund difference between whitelist and LBP. That was Willow. We'll again hammer out the whitelist thoughts, but again, in equalizing, it has to be fair, right? We want this to be fair. The reset has to be fair, or else it's not pure. So that will be done. When do we expect the first cycle to begin, Andy Mick, and when will decision on whether to refund or not be made? That decision has been made. Refunds are moving forward. When do we expect first cycle to begin? Again, we have this May 13th that we're definitely trying to hit for Twist. There's other elements that I want to allow Princess to really speak on, because that's her, right? That's really her, especially in the last 2 and 3 days, and there's been some great advancement. So I do believe that she's going to have a audio recording. Either it may not be today. I'm not sure how long the meetings and the speaking engagements are, but you guys know her. You know that all information will be provided and will be in channels and all of that. That's something that you guys have come to expect, and it is what it is. Just to confirm, rebasing pause at the 2.5. Yes, that is full-fledged the understanding now. That's a point, a line item point that will definitely get signed off on as part of this deal. And so we'll have that discussions. And if there was any change to that, we'll let everybody know quickly. But I do not expect that at all. That's something that's been communicated, and I think everyone is definitely on board with that. Has the Fiscus organization board been finalized from a legal perspective? If not, is that being worked on? Is there a timeline for that? Yes. So some awesome advancements from a legal perspective, and I know there's limits on what I could say without doxing, but there we have a member here in the community that is on a top tier firm that really likes what we have. And so there was a Zoom that was held earlier in the week. And actually, I think Princess might have highlighted it. So if you guys read back there, you'll see exactly what firm we're talking about. Moving forward, and we've used kind of a consortium of 3 different firms. You guys kind of have seen that so far. We had, at one point we had the Guild, we had like Rabinovic, then we also had RCCB Law, which is amazing, Roger Braunfield, and we kind of view them as more from the Wawaya perspective. And so we're moving forward with Waller now from the core Fiscus perspective. Their abilities we feel are vast. They get it. The brain trust that's over there, the intelligence is awesome. And for us to have fiscalites in a firm of that stature and size is awesome. Right? I mean, it's absolutely amazing, when you think about it. And that again highlights the model and what we have. And so from the finalization perspective, there are some elements again of that board that will be formalized. Some of that is negotiated this weekend, certain seats, all of that kind of normal corporate governance. We'll be getting into all of that. Let's see. Will NFT levels still have the same mechanism for reward going into the new model? That's the absolute goal, right? Is to push for that to be the same, because again, we know that the participation in those NFTs was based on that, and so that's something that we want to hold to, and that's something that, from my perspective, going into these into the negotiations with that in mind. Preserving those NFT holders incentives. Okay. Yeah, current status. We've already talked about that. Rosie B. Will be sticking around long term when if private deal goes through for how long? Yes, I might. This is the let's just be real, right? And I'll make sure. I hope I'm not just talking and no one can hear me. Okay, make sure everybody can hear me. That would be terrible. So the thought is this. I from a personal perspective, right? I don't talk a lot about kind of the personal elements very much. From a personal perspective, those that know the story of Fiscus in the beginning, right? Me as Fiscus Calisoda. The thought was I knew, right? We knew that this would be huge. I from a family perspective, my thought was always I really want to preserve that privacy, right? It's not lost on me that I am a black founder of in a crypto project that is and will be phenomenal, right? And so the thought was, okay, that's going to bring press, and then with what's happened in my life and my past and my mistakes, that would also bring press. And I didn't want that to get in the way of Fiscus, right? And so that's always there. That's the element that by me stepping aside at that time, right? And think of it this way. This is kind of how I see it. I see it as, you have a football team and they're in the locker room and everyone is gearing up, they're getting hyped, they're ready. Their practice, their well-oiled machine. You may have somebody sometimes that's a coach or even the equipment manager, right? He doesn't run out on the field, right? The whole point is allowing Fiscus to thrive and grow. And if that needs to be outside of me, then that is absolutely the choice that will be made and is being made. I don't want to get in the way of capital inflows, right? That doesn't make sense. Why stand in the way? And that's already happening. Already, there was a group that and I don't want to out them or anything like that, but there's a group that definitely had issues with that, even though they understood the multi-sig nature and me not being on the multi-sig, and they understood the elements of me not having fiscal control because a lot of that's handled via Wawea. But still, I don't want to tarnish Fiscus in that way. And so again, it's a lot easier and it's a lot simpler and it's more to even my core values and what I want for my family to be able to step aside before Coinbase picks it up and before everyone hears about it and there's a mass amount of articles and these other things. And so just so you guys know, you guys are hearing that now from me. That's the point. And so by doing that, guess what I'm also able to do? The other IP that we have, we're talking about Fiscus Bank. We're talking about doing on-chain personal business, corporate credit on-chain, via wallets. There's mechanisms there. There's so much that from an R&D perspective that I'll be able to do without one, always allowing Fiscus to continually evolve and compete without sacrificing anything from a capital intake perspective, without sacrificing anything from a reputational perspective, right? Those are things that, because it's already been how it is, we have to get some of those elements back. But the largesse of this model and of where we're going will easily do that. I just don't want to continually be a stumbling block. So enough on that, right? Next question here. Okay, privatization change our on-chain plans completely. Am I correct in saying that there will now be no on-chain launch, token launch until several cycles of the business model conclude in a private capacity, at which point we launch the on-chain elements once the business model is several cycles proven, and we launch with legitimate value and a strengthened position. I think that's spot on. Like that's something there, MacBeast, that maybe we need to just go ahead and post that, and repost that, because yes, that is it. Now, in those waiting times, right? In those cycle times, we know that, again, how it's not fair for everyone to see the cycles grow and not necessarily receive the benefits at those times. So that's something that we will be talking about over this weekend, what that looks like. But we also know that those that are here, those that are staying here, are here to see it grow. And so just know that that is the point, right? That is always the goal as well. Thank you for posting that link to Clarissa. Everybody that sees that there's how to submit from the Project Council review. I know that there's when Clarissa highlighted on it, and it was something that Princess and I had talked about even earlier in the week. There's some software that's being developed that literally will allow someone to go A to Z in the process, right? I mean, we're at that level now. When we talk about being a blue chip, we're talking about custom software. So from a project development perspective, from an oversight perspective, we're at that level of bank software, just to use just a kind of a colloquial term. Let's say, when would the refund of Fisk happen? We'll announce that more after these meetings over the weekend, but it's something that we definitely want to have in place quickly. Those that want out, we want to wish you well and have you go. And all those that want to stay, welcome, and let's continue to work. Yes, Donnie and I still going to be here. Again, up to that point, that we've already talked about. Even clarity on that going private. Yeah, really going private is I think a reset or a reboot is probably even better than the thought of going private. We will have those, I guess you could say, private funding cycles that would occur. But the great part about that is that it still has the same level of transparency. We're not going to sit up here and say, man, cycle 1 is complete, guys. It was great. And there's this. Like, no, it's not that. It's saying, okay, here's the elements of cycle 1. Here are these projects. And then having those projects come on and they talk about, hey, we just received the funding. We're happy that it's been deployed. Having screenshots that are applicable from Finicity, so that you guys can also see that and see the flow. When we talk about these capital assets, the capital coming in, it's the same with that. That's these heightened approach as well, so that there's clarity there. When we talk about the RAC token, obviously that's on chain, that's fully visible, so everyone will be able to see that. And then as we go through first, second, third cycle, more. If there's some efficiencies, some tweaks that need to be made, then we can make those. But those already been outlined. I mean, that's what's been done over these last even few weeks. Rosie B about RAC. Man, Mr. McCall's talking about that. Is it a new token? Best way to think about it is that dynamic between on the Terra Luna ecosystem. RAC allows us not only to quantify the off-chain assets, but when we look forward, right? When we look at what actually RAC will benefit from, right? Some of these elements would be, RAC will be created not only from the off-chain collateral, but those that know of, let's say, like an Abracadabra or a Yeti model, right, of minting RAC. When we talk about Fisk and how it's minted, right, those elements that will be talked about and will be dissected. And I'm so thrilled for everyone to really hear so much more from Crypto Sanity Mag too. I truly am. that, when we talk about that, then we'll be talking about protocol owned rack, right? And so those are the enhancements, if you will, the advancements. And so you'll learn more about the rack, Rosie B, for sure. Those that are on the coin committee as well. There'll be, again, coin committee will be up and running here this next week. We'll definitely have a meeting, I think, with myself, with Crypto Sandy Mag as well, and we'll talk about some of these elements of rack and some of the highlights and some of the elements that could be, up for discussion. We definitely want that to be up for discussion. We're very quickly, from a cross-chain perspective, that will exist very quickly. There's some objectives that are there that are, I honestly wouldn't even call them aggressive. They feel natural because of the scale of where we're going. And so we'll be talking about that. Yes. Next question there. Sorry about that. I lost my spot. Okay. Regarding V funds, will we as investors need to make our personal decisions whether to take advantage of it or not? Yes. The choice will be yours. Am I right in saying we're going away from the Olympus model? Yes. There is definitely a superior model, and we definitely want to take advantage of the minting plus 4 price. Just to throw out a little teaser there, will be great for everyone. And with third party burn, it's going to be exciting. Again, from a token perspective, I think we will get to where I anticipated us getting to faster. Not able to say how much faster, but when you talk about the capital that's coming to the table, that speeds the entire process. That increases from a price appreciation perspective. That takes it to heights that we really can't even anticipate, right? Because it's two separate elements that have the ability to grow. I'm baffled, honestly. From a model perspective, it's awesome. So I'm excited to get in to some of these thoughts with those in the community as well. I'm excited to have some good conversations with Rude and BSID and all those here in the community that are just have been amazing and have been on the front lines of explaining. Very, very excited about that. I know that the King and RP and Tram have had, they've had kind of again, they've had the ability to, from a level of understanding, and I wish you guys knew, their brilliance and truly, and it's something that I get to experience every day, and it's something that I'm very thankful for. But again, their roles, going long term will be increased. So I'm here to definitely put that out there now too. Okay, next question. Beetlejuice, particular reason why the refund is set at a fixed amount. It feels like whitelisters are being punished the most, but they were one of the earliest. Many LBPs for a lot lower than 6, exactly, but 6 compared to 15 for whitelisters is rather steep. Refunds are rare. Absolutely, they are. But to clarify, thinking behind the 6. And so again, if you look at it from a token standpoint, right? You're looking at about 103,000 tokens on whitelist. And I think it was 70,000. And again, we'll make sure that all these numbers, everybody has these, in clarity on LBP. However, okay, sorry about that. My computer tried to go to sleep. So saying that to say, there is an option, there is a pathway for the push for a full refund for whitelisters. At this time, the best I can say is that we're looking at definitely an equalizing effect, so that they are in a great position. We know that they're at the highest price point. We want fairness to always exist. We appreciate where they've been. We know that from a stress level, I think they've had even more because, from there looking at the price that they're in, they don't have NFTs. They didn't get in as low as the LBP. and these other elements. So that is not lost. That is like from a priority list, that's very, very high on the list, to make sure that they're happy. The ones that choose to stay and the ones that receive the refunds. We want it to be amicable on all sides. Next question there. Okay, 1 second. Yeah, where will the new community for privatization live? That's something that also will be discussed. From Discord is very effective, right? Here, everyone's experienced this. We know that's effective. We also know that with refunds and with a privatizing effect, there's some specific elements that even King, who is just I view as he's our communities officer, our communities manager, that will have in place, whether it's a token for entrance into a Discord. Several of those elements are being mulled about, but absolutely everyone that will want access will have the access. Those that are committed fiscalites, right? Those that are involved, those that are vested, those that are invested, they'll have that. Okay, we talked about that. Refunding. Okay. First, NFT voting and governance incentives. Again, we'll hammer out some elements on that over the weekend. My thought going into the weekend is that it's literally at funding, right? And that's the best part about those, right at funding. And so again, if depending on which of those deadlines that we're able to hit and meet, and which of the projects receive their funding, then those would go out with that. Now, with the lack of an NFT DApp, that would be in an airdrop, right? That would be in stables just being sent out. Okay, possible. See there, we'll talk back and forth. I love our Discord here. Yeah, Rude talks about, can you explain what makes us being on and again, it's not that we're going to be on that. That's it's not that. It's just if you look at for a comparison, right? Look at what UST has done and as far as from a capital perspective, what they've grown to. So take that, okay? So take the what's over there. Anybody have that in thought here? I want to say it's UST is about 18 billion, right? About 18 billion from a market cap perspective. So think of that. Think of 18 billion in set asides and what that would fund for projects and the ROI that would stem from that. Now, that's at UST's 19.45 ROI, or I guess that's an APY with them. So now think of that at 40. Now think of from a capital perspective, those that come to the table are not just on-chain providers. These are not just on-chain participants. These are private equity, venture capital, hedge funds, trusts, insurance companies, endowments, other on-chain protocols and projects that understand that, not only do I want to participate in RAC for the ROI, but I also want to receive funding for our protocol. And on top of that, I also want to buy the FIS token, because why would I not? Why would and let's think about this logically here. And I know I'm talking a lot, right? But let's think about this logically. If I'm bringing capital to the ecosystem, and I know that that's going to fund projects and create this ROI in a very risk mitigated fashion, why would I not also buy the token? Why would I not also buy Fisc? Because I am, in that sense, the one that is making sure that the Fisc price increases because of the capital I brought to the table, right? And so think of those dynamics. and how that would work and function, and most importantly, scale. And then you have an understanding of where we are and the true power of this project. Next question here. Any updates on the token bought during the dip? Refund is the approach. If we buy NFTs, how soon will revenue be generated by holding them? Again, we'll hammer out some of those elements over the weekend, but at funding, as talked about earlier. Rack, random acts of kindness, that's what I think of. There's a story behind it, and I'm not going to share it right now. It's something that we'll save on where that came from, and I think it's pretty funny. The 40% APY coming from the projects, yes. Again, the benefit is that the fees that we're able to charge for arranging what amounts to 100% financing for these projects. Let's get back to that. That's an element. Let's pull that out and chew on that for a second. When we talk about a project that's able to receive 100% or very close to 100% financing, how many projects would you think would come to the table if they had to bring 50%? How many projects at 30, at 20, at 10, right? At 5, and at close to 0? That highlights the element of why there's no shortage of projects. Like we've created the holy grail of project finance. Now, with that being said, they have to be viable projects. And there's the strength of Wawea, right? It's not just, a guy that says, hey, I'd like $1 billion, right? It has to be more than that. Now, at the same time, we rely on the in financing, for some of their underwriting. Now, Wawea doesn't. They continue on. From my perspective, and this is something that was talked about even 2 days ago, always taking the standpoint of, and I don't know how to say this without saying it. I don't care which projects come forth. Okay, if they're viable from Wawea and they're viable from a Minizaga or the other private family offices and other groups, that's more than enough. From my perspective, it's as a commodity. It's funding as a commodity. And so as such, and that gets us to a decentralized place, right? Where we don't know, right? When somebody comes forth and they've bought an NFT, somebody buys an NFT on Kaleo, don't know who that is. But I know that they've made that decision. They've met the requirements in order to buy on Kaleo. They have a thought, they have a plan, whatever that is, that's great. To me, that's free and fair. And so that's the way that I see even project finance. Now, that's in a different way, right? We're talking about something new. The old guard is really a lot more protective over elements, and they're restrictive on capital a lot of times because of that. So where do we find that balance? I think that's what we strike. And everybody that sees the Fiscus element and the Wawea element, that's that balance. That's there for that, right? And with that being said, let's move on. All right. That answers that. Obviously comes from projects. Yes. And the shoot highlighted. That's perfect. Little light question here. Inger Mitt, let's hit that one though. NFT holder from hour one. Yeah, thank you for being here too. Want to stay with my NFTs 100%, but may need liquidity and thus consider refunding some of my PFIS. Is this possible? Yes. Do I refund just PFIS, or do I refund PFIS and 2.5 times from rebases? The form and everything moving forward is based on the PFIS that you have, not considering rebases. The rebases will be handled on this side, rolled over, vested. Now, you guys will you'll have that in the new tokens. You'll be able to see it through on-chain or your on-chain mechanisms, all those same things. But there will be a vesting on that. And that's for, again, rebases based on the tokens that carry forward. If it's a refund, those rebases attached to those refund coins are gone. Let's be clear about that. Okay. And that wasn't a bad question, Tim Apple. Why is rebate not being honored? Again, it is being honored on staying, but not on the refund. And that's the decision. It's an economic decision. It's a decision based on, again, this is a reset. And that's one of the elements of the reset, in moving forward. When we're talking about the capital that's coming in, those are the thoughts and stipulations there. And that just is what it is. For lack of a better term, I hope that doesn't sound, callous or unappreciative in any way. Again, we highlight that in that $6 price point because that's higher than the $5, and those individuals still have the NFTs, and so definitely see that as more than fair. Okay, let's see here. 18. I'm not sure what TK Hill, what you were saying about that 18% now. Who's Crypto Sandy Mac? We'll definitely have I think an introduction will be needed, and I'm excited for that as well. Yeah, definitely search those messages. He's here, and he's been here since the beginning as well. Let's go on here to, what am I missing? You guys are cracking me up. Okay. Yeah. Great. Last question there, XRP. So if flight listers took a refund, will they get back what they put in, or is it $6 a token without rebases? After this weekend, after the final negotiations are made, we'll have the answer for that. At least $6 a token and an equalizing effect to make sure that they are well taken care of moving forward. That's the at least. Does the reboot include a launch of a new token on chain? Sorry, I misunderstood this element. There is elements of a chain change, right? Of maybe migrating away from Avalanche. There is some talk about that. That has not been finalized. There's a lot of benefits. And I'm just going to put this out here. There's a lot of benefits that have been made known through capital sources and capital groups. There is a lot of benefits of being on Ethereum, and the benefits outweigh the gas fees. Let me just come out and say that they outweigh that. There's a lot of things coming down the pike in the next 6-7 months. From a cross chain and from a cross chain perspective, and these other solutions that also will be mitigating gas fees on Ethereum. And so again, we're looking long term, right? We're not just looking today. So there's some elements there, and so that will be talked about, over the weekend. That's one of those elements. Time frame realistic for the conclusion of privatization? When you say 3 cycles, and given our timeline on those 3 cycles, I've been saying 90 days. That's what I've been saying. Now, 90 days sounds like 10 years in crypto, and I get that, and I understand that. It's not. Those that have been here since the beginning, you've already been here twice that. Those that know where we're going as a project, you're in. You're vested if you're staying with us. You're seeing the benefits. You're seeing everything that's going on that's building value. You're seeing capital come to the table that's building value. You have the opportunity for refunds on tokens to minimize your exposure, right? All of those are kind of mechanisms put in place to give you the best experience even moving forward. So I think that's kind of the best way to kind of talk about that. Yes, and lowering the gas fees with good contracting code, absolutely, and that's something that I know that Sanity will definitely probably like to talk about, because I think he did highlight that in even one of our discussions this week. Do expect all NFTs to be distributed by May 13th, so we're prepared to potentially get the airdrops. We'll definitely talk with the minting team, kind of see where they're at. I think there's a couple even more maybe community members that we'll bring on to even kind of help speed that up, because it is a tedious process. And again, that will come after these weekend discussions. So don't expect any additional NFTs. Let's just say over the weekend, right? Let's be efficient in that way. Let us get through the finality of these negotiations before there is an expectation for those additionals to be sent. After we get through that, then obviously we'll go from there, and everybody can benefit there. Okay. Elaborate on what the benefits would be would outweigh Ethereum gas fees. The benefits, the primary benefit, and that's a great question, Andy Mick. The benefits is that there is a lot of capital on Ethereum that is viable for us that would flow into RAC. And that capital directly affects the FIS price, right? That directly affects your bags. And so in essence, if we look at the on-chain element in a way as the marketplace, it's selling what you have on Amazon versus selling what you have at, is there still Kmart? At Kmart, right? Or selling what you have even on a small Shopify store. The exposure directly impacts our ability on chain. And so that's an element that is heightened. The connections there from our new capital partners. That's another reason for that. There are a lot of people that are there that have even what you could consider social capital. Those that have had Ethereum since 2015 and have millions and millions of dollars that want to pledge it and want to be involved in a project like ours, but they're not looking to change networks, right? They're not looking to bridge. These aren't smaller DeFi investors. Let's say these aren't normal retail crypto. These are institutional level, and just as mentioned by Killa there, Ethereum is the king, right? And so again, we want to be where we can be the most efficient. And I know it sounds like that decision has been made. I'm not saying that, but those would be the reasons why it would go that route. Yeah, with you on that, Willow. The community is amazing. And then Beetlejuice, if we're moving to ETH, we have to wait even longer for those newer NFTs. Not saying that, there's definitely a path forward that would involve staying. NFTs could be on Avalanche, even though if we were on ETH, for us to bridge is not a big deal, right? If we're asking a capital group to bridge over 100 million, 200 million, that's a different ask, that they may not be willing to do. For us to bridge over, and again, it will be sizable, especially. But again, if that's something that we're willing to do to also support the Avalanche network, then there's a good duality there. There's a good benefit there. So that's something, again, we'll talk about that over this weekend. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, great example there. TQ 13 with the good code. Even minted NFTs today at 6 p.m. and only had $14 in gas. That's awesome. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. Lost a connection there and have a good backup. All right, so I definitely want to let Sanity really highlight some of those elements, as that will be, definitely something he is even more versed in than I. I would just say again, and talking about it earlier, as we just mentioned a few moments ago, that duality between looking at RAC compared to UST and how that fuels our process, right? How that fuels what we would be doing. That's the element that definitely keep in mind. That's quite amazing, honestly. Let me see here if I can access another question here. Still talk. Perfect. Yep, we addressed that about the AVAX there. This is the increment zone, that question there here at 428. Let's say we don't use resends and we're still able to trade our tokens with other holders via OTC deals, even before launch. That's something that, again, we're proponents of free market. From a registry perspective, it's pretty easy with obviously with PFISC, because again, everything is on Snowtrace there. I wouldn't necessarily see a detriment to that. It's something that, again, we want to make sure that that no one's dealing with, let's say, a blacklisted wallet. That's kind of the only I would say the something to be mindful of there. And so that's something to think about. But that is something that we'll talk about over the weekend. All right. Yeah, Fiscus Party Q4. I'm still for that. Again, let's see where we're at here. But yeah, I definitely think that's something that we should look for. And again, as a united, close knit community, I think that's something that we all will look forward to. Bishop Hands, not saying we're necessarily going to go to ETH. An option because of the size of capital that's there that would be able to flow into RAC. Okay. Current negotiations over the weekend. Yeah, there's impetus, right? 1 second. Okay. Yeah, there's impetus there based upon we know where we're headed, and so we know that from a capital perspective, we don't want to present something that's not finalized when we're going into several of these meetings as well. And so it's over the weekend, for completion. And then we'll be announcing that and all that, launch, thoughts, refunds, NFT changes, all of that. But remember, the goal is we'll make that decision quickly that allows capital to inflow aggressively, right? There's no turning down of that, right? There's no sitting back. Like, this is the time that we really go full tilt, right? This is where we go all in, because we know the strength that we have, and that was addressed there. And I think I'm to the bottom here. I think I'm to the bottom of the questions. Well, I gotta wait from Rude, so maybe one more question. I'll say as we maybe get another question or so, just the appreciation for everyone. We know that fear, uncertainty, and doubt, especially uncertainty, is something that's difficult. That's an element that's difficult for everyone. It's difficult for team members at times. It's difficult for team member families and community members alike, and your families. And there's so many people that work on Fiscus and have regular jobs. Like, so many of you guys have regular jobs and are full time, right? And then are also putting in 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day on Fiscus. And we know the impact that has had on your families. That's not lost on us, right? That is not lost on us. There is such a value to that level of commitment, and that's what drives us, right? That's what allows us to do 20-hour days. Yesterday was a 27-hour day, right? And it's for that. I mean, the energy that you guys have is palpable. And so again, thank everyone for the DMs and for the constant thoughts there. So that other Rude question was, by vesting, Do you mean like rebasing? What percentage will it be? Does that mean we'll be above the 2.5? Not saying that, just saying that more of the graduated release has been the thought, but let us finalize that over the weekend. And so, in essence, let's say that someone did not have a refund, and let's use an example of 1,000 PFIS. So you have 1,000 PFIS, you have an additional 1,500 PFIS that would be coming from the rebase, and so that 1,500 would then be vested, right? That's the thought behind that. Okay, time frame for launch. Yeah, a lot of great news. Time frame for launch. Again, launch is it'll be after a few cycles. That's the best way to put it. And I'll be going in after we finalize this and really getting with Princess, and we'll define that so the community knows, like, okay, here are what we're defining as the 3 cycles, so that you know exactly where we're at, so that it's not a where are we at type question. Are we there yet type question. When launch, right? So that it's not that. So everybody knows, okay, this is where we're at from a cycle perspective. Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. First award. Okay. All right. So I think that's let's cap the questions there. Just that we'll answer right now. If anyone else has any additionals, post them in there. And everything after this time, we'll definitely. I know someone. Sorry, I was looking at shoot there. Someone got a tattooed fist logo. That's amazing. So yeah, we'll cap them there. If anybody has any additionals, please put those there. Also DM. This puts us in a great position for projects, for their financing, for the developers. That's everything, right? For anybody that thinks it's not, you don't know Fiscus. That's everything, and that's vital. Even though we have this new on-chain kind of behemoth element that will grow in such an efficient way, we know that, again, the off-chain is where our utility lies, and we want to get to some of these other things. So in order to do that, we want to fund as many projects that are viable as possible. Those that do not know Princess and the Waweya team, there is no stop. There is no stop. There is no that's enough, right? There is an insatiable desire to fund as many projects that make a difference, as many projects that have the ability to change local areas, right? That have the ability to bring, again, the indigenous capital to have jobs, to have again, resources, and all of these things. We have the ability to finance cooperative groups, employee owned organization. These are some of the exciting things that we have the ability to do because of existing in project finance. And so we want to highlight some of those elements in education, and that's something that we're very excited to do. So with that, I would say this is the end of Fiscus Friday. Thank everyone for being here. We'll continue to update. Obviously, Donnie will continue on that element. We'll get the results of that out. We'll get the results here of the accounting review out, and we'll get the refund form, or the kind of pre-refund form out, so everybody knows and can go ahead and fill that out, and that'll give us a good bearing too from this perspective. And with that, this is Fiscus Friday, and thank everybody for being here.